Buttface was shocked to find that the little girl in front of him was able to learn it as soon as she taught it. She was able to draw inferences from one example. What, 3 years or 2 years? She would probably be able to communicate daily in 2 days. 5 days later, Yun Chujio had almost mastered the ancient language of the nightmare race. Other than some unfamiliar words, she could basically break away from being addressed as illiterate. Buttface, come with me. What can you do in this small village? You were a noble in the past, so why are you reduced to a small villager now? Come, follow me. I'll take you to fly with me. Hei Shinjio started to trick Buttface. How could Buttface resist Hei Xinjia's trick? He was tricked by Hei Shinjio and became her follower. Hei Shinjio left the village with Buttface. Before Buttface left, he said, "Little fairy, you are too good-looking. It is inevitable that you will be targeted by the nobles. It is better for you to make yourself ugly." Yun Chujio thought about it and agreed. It was better to make things less troublesome. Hence, she made her face sallow and drew a figure-8 eyebrow. She smiled at Buttface and said, "Buttface, is this ugly enough?" Buttface fell to the ground. He thought to himself that even if the Nightmare Clan lacked women, no one would want this honor for free. It was too damn ugly. When the people in the village saw Hei Shinjio behind Buttface, they were all dumbfounded. What did Go-er do? How did he turn a delicate beauty into a hag? 5 days later, Yun Chujio and Buttface arrived at the capital of the Nightmare Clan, which was also the capital where the royal and noble families of the Nightmare Clan gathered. As soon as she entered the city, Hei Shinjio noticed a phenomenon. There were more men than women in other places, but why were more than half of the people on the street women? Moreover, the women were all shy and had obviously dressed up meticulously. What were they doing? Sheng Zun, I didn't expect that the Lord of the Nightmare Clan would finally come back after waiting for so many years. Yeah, I thought that we had been abandoned. I never thought that the Sheng Zun would not forget us and return. I heard that the Sheng Zun is very handsome. If I could meet the Sheng Zun, I would have died in peace. Yun Chujio was stunned. Sheng Zun? Pan, Din 0 VL, C. Erguzi, who is the Sheng Zun? Little fairy. According to legend, the Yen clan members who left back then were brought out of the Dark Continent by the Sheng Zun. A few days ago, there was a rumor that the Sheng Zun had returned to the Dark Continent and is now living in the Imperial Palace. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. Curly Hair had said that it was the demon who had brought the Yen tribesmen out of the Dark Continent. Could it be that the so-called Sheng Zun was a demon? However, no matter what, that Sheng Zun definitely had a way to leave the Dark Continent. It would be best if she could think of a way to get close to that Sheng Zun. However, that Sheng Zun was in the Imperial Palace. How could she get close to him? Just as Yun Chujio was worrying, a team of guards walked over. The leader was an old woman. When the old woman saw Yun Chujio, she immediately nodded with satisfaction. It's her. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. What did she mean by it's her? Granny, who are you? Where are you taking me? Hei Shinjio asked with a trembling voice. Of course, she was speaking the ancient language of the Yen clan. Our princess is going to choose a few new palace maids to serve her. Your looks are just right. Cut the crap. It's your fortune to be able to serve our princess in the Imperial Palace. The old woman said arrogantly. Hei Shinjio was ecstatic. Granny, really? I can serve the princess in the Imperial Palace? I'm really grateful to your ancestors. The old woman. No matter how the old woman listened, she felt that Yun Chujio's words were strange. However, it was not easy to find such an ugly person. If her words were not pleasant to hear, then so be it. Grandma, my brother is strong and strong. Can you let him enter the palace as a guard? Don't say that you can't make the decision. I can see that you are someone who can speak to the princess. Such a small matter is simply a small matter to you. The old woman was almost lost by Hei Xinjia's words, so she brought Buttface along with her. Buttface was dumbfounded. He had thought that the little girl of Hei Shinjio was just boasting. He didn't expect that he would become a guard of the Imperial Palace the moment he entered the city of Han. This was even more mysterious than a dream. Buttface's thoughts were quickly interrupted by the shrieks of a group of women. It turned out that the women had found out that the old woman was actually choosing palace maids. They pushed themselves toward the old woman without caring about their own safety. "Grandma, choose me to enter the palace as well. As long as I can enter the palace, I can even be a rough palace maid washing clothes." "That's right, Grandma, the one you chose is too ugly. If you're not careful, you might scare the Lord. If I'm beautiful, then choose me. Grandma, choose me. I don't want a monthly salary. As long as I can enter the palace and take a look at the Lord, I'll die without any regrets." "Xingzun," said the old woman, snorted. "You want to see the Lord? Is the Lord someone you can see? Get out of the way. If you don't get out of the way, you will be thrown into prison." Hearing the old woman's words, the women all moved aside. However, their jealous eyes stabbed at He Xingjiu like knives. This ugly freak was really lucky. She had actually been chosen to enter the palace. It was really unfair. He Xingjiu curled her lips. She could roughly guess why the old woman had chosen her. It was because she was ugly. There was a high chance that the princess adored the Lord. With this ugly freak acting as a foil, she could become a fairy even if she looked ordinary. Yun Chujio followed the old woman to the Nightmare Clan's imperial palace. Along the way, He Xinjia's small mouth was as sweet as honey. She coaxed the old woman until her old face looked like a flower. But Face thought to himself, "This little devil can literally talk a dead person alive." He was completely convinced. The scale of the imperial palace of the Yen clan was huge. Moreover, it was obvious that it was not newly built. It was highly likely that it was left behind by the Yen clan's people in the past. Yun Chujio followed the old woman to a palace. The plaque on it read, "Forget Worry Palace." Before entering the door, the old woman whispered, "When you see Princess Wang Yu in a while, be smart. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you." "Nanny Chi, don't worry. I know what to do," He Xingjiu said gratefully. The old woman, who was also Nanny Chi, sent a palace maid in to report to the princess. Yun Chujio glanced around and found that the palace maids in Wang Yu Palace all looked very ordinary, which further confirmed her guess. She stood out because she was ugly. A moment later, the palace maid signaled for the two of them to enter. After Yun Chujio entered, she caught a glimpse of a woman sitting on the main seat from the corner of her eye. She looked slightly better than the average person, but she was dressed exquisitely and beautifully. This was probably the Princess Wang Yu that the old woman had mentioned. Yun Chujio bowed to Princess Wang Yu according to the old woman's instructions, and then obediently stopped talking. Princess Wang Yu sized up Yun Chujio's appearance and nodded in satisfaction. "Nanny Chi, you did well. This palace maid fits my requirements very well. From now on, you shall be called Ru Hua. You may leave first." Ru Hua? He Xinjia's heart was like a beeping dog. Could it be that she had recently suffered retribution because she had given such a name to the cute idiots? To kill little Jiao and Ru Hua at the same time was simply too tragic, wasn't it? Although this fellow was extremely unwilling, he still said respectfully, "Ruah, thank you for the name, princess. I'll take my leave." After Yun Chujio left, Princess Wang Yu coldly snorted, "Nanny Chi, the Lord still doesn't want to see me. I've thought of many ways to get close to him, but it's all to no avail. I'm the princess of the Yen clan, but I can't even see him once. I really want to force my way in." Nanny Chi's expression changed. "Princess, you absolutely mustn't. Have you forgotten? A few days ago, His Highness the Crown Prince wanted to force his way into the sacred hall. In the end, his feet had just stepped into the sacred hall when he was sent flying. His Highness the Crown Prince is still recuperating on the bed. That's because Royal Brother is a man. I don't believe that a delicate girl like me would be treated so rudely," Princess Wang Yu said angrily. "This, princess, I heard that Xingzun has a very bad temper. The people who serve him are sent flying every few days, and some even lose their lives. So you'd better not offend Xingzun. Besides, Xingzun lives in our imperial palace. We'll meet sooner or later. Why don't you go to the vicinity of the sacred palace often? Maybe Shengzun will come out one day. Besides, even if he doesn't meet Shengzun, he'll definitely be moved by your sincerity, Grandma Qi advised. Princess Wang Yu nodded. Alright, this is the only way. They'll take that Ru Hua to the vicinity of the sacred palace tomorrow. Prepare a few sets of green clothes for her. I think they'll be more suitable for her. Okay. Granny Qi agreed. She thought to herself that her big red lips and the green palace-made uniform were simply too ugly. After Granny Qi came out, she called He Xinjiu to the side. Ru Hua, the princess will bring you around the temple tomorrow. Be smart and don't offend the princess. Also, these palace-made uniforms are yours. Yun Chujia's eyes twitched when she saw the green palace-maid's uniforms in Nanny Qi's hands. Was this the rhythm of a match between red and green? Nanny Qi lowered her voice again and said, "Little girl, I think you're quite pleasing to the eye. Let me remind you that if you don't want to be implicated, you must stop the princess from forcefully breaking into the sacred hall. Otherwise, the princess will not recover, and neither will you." Yun Chujio nodded her head gratefully and didn't ask further. She didn't need to ask to guess that it was nothing more than Princess Wang Yu's unrequited love for her. Perhaps because He Xinjia's appearance was too ugly, the palace maids of Wang Yu Palace didn't push her out. In addition, this fellow had a sweet mouth, so he quickly found out about most of the matters. The Lord had arrived at the Yen clan's imperial palace about 2 months ago. As for what the Lord was here for, they weren't too sure. They had never seen Shengzun's appearance before. It was said that Shengzun usually wore a mask. However, Shengzun's demeanor of looking down at the world was like a natural noble aura. Everyone who saw Shengzun could not help but want to submit to him. Yun Chujio chimed in. She cursed in her heart. Pooey! What kind of demeanor of looking down on the world? It was like a natural noble aura. It was nothing more than the pressure brought about by their high spiritual power. And she's wearing a mask? Obviously, she's too ashamed to face anyone. What the hell is this Shengzun? Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The next day, Princess Wang Yu brought He Xinjiu and a few palace maids to the vicinity of the sacred palace. Princess Wang Yu was quite satisfied with Yun Chujia's red and green style. She asked the other palace maids to stand back and let Yun Chujio serve her. Yun Chujio looked at the sacred palace not far away while dealing with Princess Wang Yu. She didn't see anything special about it. It was just that it was a little more majestic. It didn't look any different from an ordinary palace. Princess Wang Yu was calm at first, but she soon became impatient. If you keep walking around like this, when will you be able to see the Lord? I will barge in today. I don't believe that the Lord would really have the heart to slap me away. Shengzun said. Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. It didn't matter if Shengzun was courting death, but if Shengzun was beaten to a pulp, she wouldn't have a chance to get close to the Lord. Therefore, He Xinjiu rolled her eyes and said, "Princess, the gate of the sacred palace can block your sight, but it can't block the sound. Why don't you play a zither or sing a song? Maybe you can lure the Lord out." Princess Wang Yu felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense, so she began to play the zither outside the sacred hall. Yun Chujio felt that Princess Wang Yu played really well, but she was probably playing the zither to a cow. Sure enough, Princess Wang Yu sang and played for a long time, but there was no response inside the sacred hall. It was as if she was deaf. Princess Wang Yu immediately vented her anger. "Ruwa, since you came up with the idea, you can sing. If you can't sing the Lord out, you don't have to eat dinner tonight." He Xinjia's heart was like a beeping dog. Who did she offend? She didn't know how to sing those lousy songs of the nightmare race either. This fellow had an idea. He translated the lullaby that Di Baiming sang for her into the ancient nightmare language and started humming. Princess Wang Yu frowned when she heard that. "What nonsense are you singing? Who are you trying to coax to sleep in broad daylight? Men, take him away and give him 10 strokes of the cane." Paen, Dan 0 Vel. C0M. Just as He Xinjiu was about to defend herself, the door of the sacred hall opened. Almost everyone was stunned. Did this Ru Hua really sing Shengzun out? Everyone's eyes were focused on the man standing at the entrance of the sacred hall. The man was dressed in black and wore a silver mask on his face. Just such a figure was enough to make Princess Weo faint from excitement. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. However, she had to admit that the so-called lord was indeed somewhat domineering and was on par with Xingzun. This guy narrowed his eyes and took a look. Why did he feel that Xingzun's figure was so similar to Xingzun's? This guy shook his head. She was really confused. How could Xingzun appear here? Moreover, Gigolo usually wore white clothes and rarely wore black clothes. Moreover, Gigolo's temperament was arrogant. This lord's arrogance carried a trace of gloom, so it was impossible for him to be a gigolo. At this time, Princess Wang Yu woke up. With an excited trembling voice, she said, "Xingzun greets the Lord." "Xingzun, since the last time I saw you, I have been secretly in love with you. Today's weather is perfect. Why don't we go to the back garden to admire the flowers?" Xingzun coldly glanced at Princess Wang Yu and said, "You, get lost. She come here." Everyone was instantly dumbfounded. When the Lord said "you," he was obviously referring to Princess Wang Yu, and "she" was actually referring to the flowers. Oh my God! So the Lord actually liked this style? If they had known this earlier, they would have also gone green with red. Hei Xinjiu was dumbfounded. This lord asked her to go to Xingzun? How could her honor attract men? Was there something wrong with Xingzun's eyes? Maybe it was red-green color blindness? Princess Wang Yu could not believe her ears. She pointed at Yun Chujiu and shouted sharply, "Lord, you chose this ugly monster because of me?" The Lord did not even look at Princess Wang Yu. He waved his hand and Princess Wang Yu flew out like a kite with a broken string. Yun Chujiu felt that this scene was strangely familiar. It seemed to be the same when the pretty boy slapped the person away. However, this lord's voice was not the same as the pretty boy's, so it could not be the pretty boy's voice. It was the voice of Xingzun. It was estimated that people with high spiritual power could be so pretentious. No matter what, it was not bad to be able to get close to this lord. Maybe they could find a way to leave. This Xingzun did not look like a demon. However, a demon could also transform. Maybe it was an old demon, so it could not be seen with the naked eye. Of course, this Xingzun could also be a member of the Divine Devil Hall. In any case, he was not a good person. As Hei Xinjiu had a preconceived idea, she felt that this Xingzun was not pleasing to the eye no matter how she looked at him. However, she still opened her bloody mouth and leaned over. "Xingzun, Ruhua salutes you." Xingzun's mouth twitched slightly and he said in a low voice, "Get in here." Hei Xinjiu was angry. Just get in? Get in? She would scare him to death if he got in. Of course, this guy only dared to complain in his heart. He still followed Xingzun into the temple obediently. Looking at Xingzun's back, this guy looked more and more like a gigolo. He called out with his courage, "Xingzun, Pa En, Dan 0 Vel." C0M. The lord in front of him stopped in his tracks. Yun Chujia's little heart was thumping nonstop. Could it be that he was really a gigolo? However, how could a gigolo be the lord of the Yen clan? The lord turned his head and looked at Xingzun with disdain. Not only is he ugly, his brain isn't working. Shut up. Yun Chujiu, crazy. Since she was ugly and her brain was not functioning properly, why did he want her to follow him in? Did he want to think of a way to torture her? It did not make sense. She did not offend him. Did the lullaby that she sang offend him? Oh my God, if that was the case, this was really a tragedy caused by a lullaby. The more Hei Xinjiu thought about it, the more she felt that things were not going well. She used her spiritual sense to speak to the nightmare beast. "Curly hair, if this lord wants to kill me later, you have to weave a dream for him. Do you hear me?" Meng Yanshou said with a smile. Meng Yanshou's two rabbit ears drooped as he timidly said, Little fairy, I can't afford to offend this person. You'd better not provoke him either. Let's run for our lives." "You curly hair, didn't you brag about not wanting anything in front of me? Why are you so afraid of this lord? Is he a human or a demon or some bullshit?" Shengzun's voice was filled with fear. Meng Yanshou lowered his voice and said, "Keep your voice down. Just don't provoke him, or we will all die. Hei Shinjio was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Are you stupid? How could he know that we are communicating with our spiritual senses? How did I save a good-for-nothing like you? You know that, but you refuse to tell me. From today on, I will not take your words. Meng Yanshou mumbled softly, so be it. Anyway, you should stay away from him. I still want to return to my original body. Hei Shinjio cursed Meng Yanshou a few more times. She wondered who this Xingzun was? Even Meng Yanshou was so afraid? Meng Yanshou was an ancient beast after all. He should not be so cowardly. Was this Xingzun really a big shot? However, this Xingzun had lived for at least 10,000 years. Even if he was trash, he was still very powerful after cultivating for such a long time. Just as Hei Shinjio was pondering, Xingzun suddenly stopped in front of her. This idiot bumped into him so hard that his nose almost bled. This idiot cursed in his heart. Crazy. Why did he stop walking? He's crazy. Just as he was cursing in his heart, Xingzun took off his coat. A certain Jio's heart skipped a beat. Hey, what does that mean? This shitty Xingzun has gone berserk. Could it be that he has ulterior motives outside? Fuck. If he really does that, I will make him a eunuch. Just as Hei Shinjio was feeling uneasy, she saw a flame rising from Xingzun's hand. The flame was black. The black flame instantly burned Xingzun's coat into ashes. Hei Shinjio, this shitty Xingzun obviously burned his clothes because she touched his clothes. Shit. Was he being looked down on? However, it was good. At least he was not plotting against her. He had wanted to show off his spicy noodles, but it seemed like there was no need. This guy was even more certain that the person in front of him was not D-Biming because D-Biming had an ice spirit root. This Xingzun obviously had a fire spirit root, and it was a black fire spirit root. What the fuck? After burning his clothes, Xingzun looked at Yun Chujio with disdain, then said to the guards of the temple, "Prepare hot water, 2 buckets." The guards were already used to Xingzun's concise words, so they immediately prepared 2 big buckets of hot water and placed them at the door of Xingzun's house. They did not have the guts to go in. Xingzun waved his hand, and 2 buckets of hot water floated into the house. Hei Xinjia's heart skipped a beat. Oh my, why did he prepare 2 buckets of hot water? Could it be that this bullshit lord wanted to wash her up and then enjoy her? Fuck in your dreams. I will make you a eunuch in a while. Just as Hei Shinjio was thinking about it, her body involuntarily flew up and fell into the bathtub. Yes, the one with her head down. Hei Shinjio drank a few mouthfuls of water and finally climbed out of the bathtub. Her clothes were naturally all wet, and the powder and rouge on her face were all ruined. Her entire face was like a dye plate. The Lord stood at the door and raised his eyebrows. Wash it clean, it's so ugly. Xingzun said. Hei Shinjio wiped her face with her hand. Before she could decide whether to lose her temper or what to do, Xingzun had already pushed the door open and left. Don't go near this room, or you will die. Xingzun glanced at the guards of the temple and said gloomily. Those guards nodded their heads like chickens eating rice. What a joke. Unless they had lived enough, they would not go near Xingzun. They could not wait to stay away from Xingzun. They had never seen such a difficult master. However, these guards were also very puzzled. Xingzun usually did not leave the temple. Why did he come back today with such an ugly monster? This Xingzun's taste was a little too strange, right? He actually liked the red and green of a waxen face, 8-shaped eyebrows, and big red lips. If they had known that Xingzun had such a taste, Princess Wang Yu would have probably dressed like this a long time ago, right? Hei Shinjio opened the door and saw that the Lord had entered a room next door. It seemed to be a study room. Xingzun looked at Hei Shinjio. He looked at the bucket of hot water on the floor and released the Meng Yanshou, intending to let it go for a breather. However, Hei Shinjio thought that this curly-haired guy's thoughts were not pure, so he might peep at it. Therefore, she stuffed the Meng Yanshou back into the spirit beast bag and let Xiao Hei out to let it go for a breather at the door. Hei Shinjio took a simple bath, and then she was a little worried. This fellow felt that she was too good-looking. What if she attracted the Lord's attention? If she put on makeup, the Lord would probably let her wash up again. This fellow took the only remaining Xingzun pill to look at it, and swallowed it painfully. He took out a mirror to look at it, and when he saw the extremely ordinary appearance in the mirror, he nodded his head in satisfaction. This way it was much safer. Hei Xingjiu felt that everything was safe, so she pushed the door open and walked out. The guards were all dumbfounded when they saw Yun Chujio. It turned out that she didn't look so ugly after taking off her makeup. At least she wouldn't scare people when she came out in the middle of the night. Hei Xingjiu didn't know what to do at the moment. That bullshit lord didn't come out of the room next door and didn't give any orders. So, should she return to the Palace of Forgetfulness or stay here? This guy weighed the pros and cons and decided to stay in the Sacred Hall. Firstly, that Princess Wang Yu probably hated her to death now. If she returned to the Palace of Forgetfulness, she would be asking for trouble. Secondly, her purpose of entering the palace was to get close to the Lord. Probably only this Lord knew the way to return to the immortal Yuan continent. It was better to think of a way to get closer to Xingzun. Just as Xingzun was thinking about this, he heard someone outside the sacred hall say respectfully, "Xingzun, His Majesty has prepared a banquet. He respectfully invites you to attend it." Although the Xingzun had never attended a banquet before, in order to express his sincerity, Emperor Yan still sent Chief Ji of the Imperial Palace to invite Xingzun on time every day. Chief Ji was already used to it. Every time he finished speaking, there would be no response from the sacred hall at all. It was as if he had not heard anything. He waited for half an hour before he could return to report his mission. General Manager Ji waited for a while. Sure enough, there was no movement. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a low voice from inside, "What time?" General Manager Ji did not react for a while. The attendant beside him tugged at him. Only then did he react. He almost trembled as he said, 5 minutes at night. After General Manager Ji finished speaking, a faint came from inside. General Manager Ji said a few more polite words, like, "I'll be waiting for your grand arrival," and so on. Unfortunately, there was no more movement from inside. General Manager Ji did not dare to say anything more when he saw this. With the help of his subordinates, he scrambled back to deliver the letter. After Emperor Yan heard that the Lord had agreed to attend the banquet, he immediately ordered the Imperial Kitchen to bring out their special skills. They had to ensure that the Lord was satisfied with the appearance, fragrance, and taste of Xingzun. For a moment, the entire Imperial Palace was bustling with activity. All the palace maids and guards had changed into brand new clothes. The roadside was decorated with lanterns and streamers. From the sacred palace to the meeting hall that was going to attend the banquet, all of them were covered in snow-white fur. The most beautiful flowers of the Yen clan were placed on both sides of the road. Chief Ji was extremely busy. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he was quick-witted and moved the time back a little. Otherwise, he would not have had time to prepare at all. However, why did this Xingzun suddenly agree to attend the banquet today? Hei Xingjiu was also very puzzled. Wasn't this crazy lord a shut-in? Why did he agree to go to the banquet? However, it was also good that he went to the banquet. She could take the opportunity to search his study and bedroom. Maybe she could find some clues. Therefore, Hei Xingjiu said to the guards with her hands behind her back, "Go in and clean the room. If it's not clean, be careful that the Lord will kill you all." Guard number 1. Is there something wrong with this red and green combination? How dare she command them? Guard number 2. Is this Hua Hua's brain damaged? What right does she, a palace maid, have to command them? Guard number 3. Does this Hua Hua think that she is the Lord's servant just because she took a bath? Seeing that the guards did not move, Yun Chujio lowered her voice and said gloomily, "If you don't listen to me, I will say that you tried to sneak into the house to watch me take a bath." The guards, "You win. You are shameless enough. I've never seen such a shameless person. And she's actually a little girl. What the hell?" The guards had no choice but to suppress their anger and clean up the house. Hei Xingjiu found that the house that she took a shower in previously seemed to be the living room, so she sat down on the chair and took out her notebook to read happily. This fellow had already thought it through. The worst outcome would be to offend that Xingzun. Since it was already like this, why would he treat her badly? Moreover, as the saying goes, there was no eternal enemy, only eternal interests. That shit Xingzun had suddenly come to the Dark Continent. He must have some motive, and most likely, there was no progress. If he insisted on making things difficult for her, she would use this as a bargaining point to deal with him. As for whether or not the Lord would negotiate with her, this fellow didn't even consider it. At most, it would just be a war. She had a large kitchen knife in her hand. What was there to be afraid of? Meng Yanshou really wanted to die first. How did it end up with such an ancestor? Not to mention that the large kitchen knife had yet to recover into the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe. Even if he really carried the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe, could he fucking chop that person to death? The Nightmare Beast looked at the other stupid Meng Yanshou in the Spiritual Beast bag. All of them were very relaxed and did not seem to be worried at all. A bunch of freeloaders. That black-hearted little girl is dead, and you guys can't live either. The Nightmare Beast said angrily. Xiao Hanio glanced at it. Io, you want to pretend to be the boss here? Everything has a first-come, first-served basis. You're just a latecomer, what are you so awesome for? I'm warning you, you're behind the little bastard, you're Xiao Qi, get out of my way. Meng Yanshou was so angry that his eyes were red. Well, they were red to begin with, so he pounced fiercely at Xiao Hanio. A moment later, Meng Yanshou was beaten up by the group until he had nothing left to live for. Damn it. Black-hearted brat, I want to change my host body. I don't want to be a rabbit. Hey Xingjiu ignored these idiots. After reading the script for a while, she felt a little sleepy. She took out a reclining chair and sat on it, falling asleep in a daze. The sky quickly darkened. Manager Ji arrived outside the sacred hall 2 hours in advance and waited anxiously, afraid that the Lord would lose his temper if things didn't go his way. Pan, Tian 0 VL, C, M. However, as time passed, there was no movement inside the sacred hall at all. Sheng Zun's heart immediately sank. Could it be that the Lord had changed his mind and did not want to go to the banquet again? If the Lord really did not go to the banquet, would the Lord think that Sheng Zun was lying? Sheng Zun's heart was in a mess. He consoled himself that it was not even 3 minutes past 5. The Lord was a punctual person and would come out in a while. Yes, that must be the case. Inside the temple, Hei Xingjiu finally woke up. When she opened her eyes, she was shocked. She saw a person standing at the door, staring at her. Hei Xingjiu subconsciously looked at herself. Luckily, her clothes were still there. Oh my God, wasn't this Xing Zun going to a banquet tonight? Why was he staring at her with his dead fish eyes? Wait a minute, dead fish eyes? Pan, DN0 Vel, when Hei Xingjiu looked at Xing Zun's eyes again, she found that Xing Zun's eyes were a little cold, totally different from Di Baiming's angry eyes. That's right, how could this psycho be a gigolo? She must have been scared silly just now. Xing Zun had no choice but to lower his head under the eaves. This guy hurriedly stood up and said in fear and trepidation, Xing Zun, I accidentally fell asleep just now. Please forgive me. Xing Zun stared at her coldly. Hei Xingjiu's little heart was thumping violently. Was this crazy person going to make a move? Just as Hei Xingjiu was about to speak, she heard a clearly trembling voice coming from outside the door. Lord, I have come to fetch you to the banquet. The one who spoke was Manager Ji. 15 minutes had already passed and there was still no movement inside the sacred hall. He could only take the risk of being slapped away and shout, Xing Zun. Xing Zun frowned slightly and turned around to leave the room. Hei Xingjiu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to drink some water to calm herself down, she heard Xing Zun's voice from outside the door, Aren't you going to follow me? Yun Chujiu was stunned. Was he talking about her? When this fellow walked out of the door, he saw that Xing Zun had already arrived at the main entrance of the sacred hall. The guards were all looking at her nervously, indicating that she should follow him quickly. Otherwise, the Lord would be furious again. Yun Chujio thought to herself, since she was going to attend the banquet, and not to throw her life away, she might as well follow him. Perhaps she could even borrow the opportunity to eat some good food. It just so happened that she had not eaten dinner yet. Hence, Sheng Zun followed behind the Lord and left the sacred hall. Manager Ji, who was kneeling on the ground, almost cried when he saw the Lord coming out. It was not easy. Sheng Zun was stunned when he saw Yun Chujio. He had heard that Princess Wang Yu's palace maid, Ru Hua, had been brought into the sacred hall by the Lord. However, didn't they say that the palace maid had a sallow face, 8-shaped eyebrows, red lips, and green lips? Although this palace maid was wearing a green palace maid uniform, although she was not pretty, she was not ugly either. Was she the Ru Hua from before? Although Chief Ji was curious, he didn't dare to ask further and carefully led the way. Yun Chujio looked at the white fur on the ground and the flowers on both sides of the road and couldn't help but criticize Sheng Zun in her heart. This lord really has quite a grand presence. He was struck by lightning for acting cool. Boom! A purple heavenly lightning descended from the sky and struck He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu, damn it, blind heavenly lightning, you've struck the wrong target? However, could such a blind heavenly lightning strike her again? It was fine even if it didn't include male. Manager Ji and the others looked at He Xinjiu with a dumbfounded expression. How could this Ru Hua be completely fine after being struck by the heavenly lightning? That's right, the Lord must have diffused the heavenly lightning for her without batting an eyelid. The Lord was truly unrivaled in his skills. He was indeed worthy of being the lord of their Yen clan, Sheng Zun. Hence, everyone's gaze toward Sheng Zun became even more pious and respectful. Yun Chujio, what exactly happened? Why did it feel like after she was struck, everyone's reaction was so calm? Could it be that the Yen clan's people were often struck by lightning? He Xinjiu was walking behind Sheng Zun, so she could not see Sheng Ziyuan's expression. However, Sheng Zun did not even stop, which showed that he did not take this thunder seriously. He Xinjiu comforted herself. She reckoned that this place was really filled with thunder. Otherwise, how could this shitty Sheng Zun be so calm? Finally, they arrived at the meeting hall. The meeting hall was brightly lit. It was so quiet that one could even hear a pin drop. Emperor Yen, the Empress, a group of nobles, and even Princess Wang Yu and the heavily injured Crown Prince were supported by people to welcome them at the entrance of the meeting hall. When everyone saw the holy senior, they hurriedly bowed. Emperor Yan's old face was full of flattery. Holy senior, I have already asked someone to prepare some food and wine. Please come in. Sheng Zun said cold sweat was dripping down Emperor Yan's forehead. How could he call himself Sheng Zun in front of the Lord? He was really going to die. The Lord did not pursue the matter further. Instead, he stepped into the meeting hall. He Xinjiu followed closely behind Emperor Yen and the others using her tiger-like power. Princess Wang Yu, who was supported by someone, glared at He Xinjiu's back. The regret in her heart was like a torrential river. If she had known this would happen, she would never have let this red and green couple meet the Lord. But now, the Lord had even brought this red and green couple with him to the banquet. Sheng Zun had really angered her to death. She did not believe that the Lord really liked this red and green couple. Although this red and green couple was not as ugly after removing their makeup, they were not as beautiful as her. She had to let the Lord know today that only her noble Princess Wang Yu was worthy of him. Naturally, the Lord sat on the main seat. Emperor Yen only sat on the right-hand side, while the Empress and Crown Prince sat down according to their status. As for He Xinjiu, she was only a palace maid, so she could only stand behind Sheng Zun. This guy looked at Sheng Zun's neck and thought to himself, I wonder if I have a chance of winning if I use the kitchen knife now? 0. There's no chance of winning at all. Little fairy, don't court death. I haven't married a wife yet. Meng Yanshou wailed loudly in the spiritual beast bag. Yun Chujio, she was just thinking about it. Did curly hair need to be so excited? Could it be that this crazy Sheng Zun had dealt with it before? Curly hair, Could it be that you were locked up by this crazy Xingzun before? Hey Xinjiao asked tentatively. Meng Yanshou said happily, fortunately, I didn't fall into his hands at that time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as simple as being locked up. Alright, stop trying to trick me. I won't say anything. In short, just don't provoke him. If you ask me, let's find an opportunity to leave quickly. When he leaves the Dark Continent, well, think of a way. Just as Yun Chujio was talking to Meng Yanshou, the banquet had already begun. However, no matter how one looked at the banquet, it felt strange. Everyone lowered their heads silently. No one dared to touch their chopsticks because the Lord had not eaten yet. Who would dare to eat first? Emperor Yen felt that it was not a good idea to do so, so he used his courage to raise his wine cup and said, Lord, this cup of wine is for you to welcome us. Well, drink it. You can do whatever you want. Emperor Yen almost bit his tongue. What nonsense was he talking about? However, no matter what, it was not so awkward anymore. Emperor Yen took the lead, and everyone also drank the wine in their hands. The Lord was still giving face to Xingzun, so he raised his glass and drank the wine as well. Hei Xinjiao swallowed her saliva. Perhaps she had eaten too many melon seeds while reading the script, so she felt thirsty and swollen. Seeing that the Lord had drunk the wine, Emperor Yen suddenly felt that the tension in his heart had eased a little. Lord, I don't know what kind of dishes you like, so I've asked the kitchen to prepare some more. Please try some, Emperor Yen said courteously. Yun Chujio thought to herself, how is this some? The table in front of the crazy lord was almost 10 feet long. She didn't know why the Yen clan had such a long table. The table was filled with all kinds of food. From cold plates to hot soup, there were more than 10 plates of fruit plates. What a waste! He was struck by lightning. Boom! An explosion sounded from the roof of the meeting hall. Fortunately, the meeting hall was relatively sturdy. A bolt of lightning did not do much, but Hei Xinjiao felt guilty. This guy quickly lowered his head and did not say a word. Could it be that she had become a jinx like Xiaohei? However, this skill was good. In the future, if he said that he would be struck by lightning whenever he had nothing to do, wouldn't he not have to worry about not having the power of lightning? Emperor Yen entertained himself by telling a few jokes that were not considered jokes. The Lord did not even move the corner of his mouth. Emperor Yen himself felt very awkward, so he clapped his hands and a beautiful woman began to dance. Hei Xinjiao stared at the delicious food on the table, cursing in her heart, are these people sick? If there is delicious food, why don't they just leave it? Don't they know that it is shameful to waste it? This guy did not eat lunch or dinner. He only ate a fruit and some melon seeds. He was already so hungry that he did not want it anymore. Now that he saw the food, his stomach began to growl and growl. Hei Xinjiao was thick-skinned, but she felt that it was quite embarrassing. She could only silently move backward, hoping that the crazy Xingzun did not hear her. Xingzun held a wine glass in his hand and casually sat on the chair. A few rays of light flashed in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Princess Wang Yu, who was sitting below, looked at Xingzun with a face full of infatuation. Although Xingzun was wearing a mask, his bearing was superior to all the men of the nightmare race. This was especially true for Xingzun's lazy sitting posture and the slightly raised corner of his mouth. Princess Wang Yu felt that as long as Xingzun smiled at her, she would be willing to die. Coincidentally, the music stopped. Princess Wang Yu stood up in a flash. With a blush on her face, she said shyly, Your Excellency, Wang Yu has specially practiced the zither skills. Now, Wang Yu will play a song for you. After Princess Wang Yu finished speaking, she didn't wait for the Lord to speak and quickly left her seat. She asked the palace maids to set up the zither platform and began to play the zither. Princess Wang Yu felt that it might not have been the red and green song that attracted the Lord this afternoon. It might have been her zither that attracted the Lord. Then, when the Lord came out, he mistakenly thought that it was the red and green zither that Xingzun was playing. It must be so. While Princess Wang Yu was playing the zither, she kept stealing glances at the Lord. She felt that her entire heart was melting. Hei Xinjiao had already retreated far away. She quietly took out a meat bun from her storage ring and hid it in her sleeve. Using the sleeve as a cover, she began to eat it. Damn it. I'm starving to death. People are iron, rice and steel. I'm so hungry that I can't stop eating. While this guy was enjoying his meal, he heard the Lord say coldly, "Pour the wine for Xingzun." Hei Xinjiao didn't react in time. This guy was still eating the meat buns without caring about his own safety. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became depressing. Princess Wang Yu, who was playing the zither, couldn't sit still anymore and fell to the ground. In the weird silence, a certain Jiao smacked her lips. Everyone in the meeting hall had their eyes fixed on Xingzun Jiao, who was gnawing on a meat bun. Only the Lord, who was sitting on a chair, said coldly, "Pour the wine." Those two simple words sent chills down everyone's spines. It was too terrifying. Everyone was no longer in the mood to look at Hei Xinjiao, who was gnawing on a meat bun. Their clothes were drenched in cold sweat, and they felt that they would die at any moment. Emperor Yan's voice trembled as he shouted at the palace maids, "Are you all deaf? Hurry up and pour wine for the Lord." The palace maids usually wished that they could be closer to the Lord. However, at this moment, they felt that the Lord was like a sharp sword that was ready to be unsheathed at any moment. Moreover, it was the kind that would see blood the moment it was unsheathed. They really did not want to go up and throw their lives away. However, they couldn't disobey Emperor Yan's orders, so the palace maids looked at each other and could only move forward bit by bit. The Lord's expression became even gloomier. Some of the nobles had already collapsed onto the ground, and the heavily injured crown prince had fainted from fright. Although the palace maids were unwilling, they still moved in front of the Lord, and one of them used his courage to grab the wine jug on the table. Scram! Shengzun's cold voice scared the palace maids so much that they fell to the ground and almost crawled away. Emperor Yan was completely dumbfounded. What did Shengzun mean by this? Didn't he say to get someone to pour the wine for him? Why was he not happy when the palace maids wanted to pour the wine for him? Could it be that they wanted him to pour the wine? When Emperor Yan thought of this, he gritted his teeth and stood up. "Shengzun, let me pour the wine for you." The Lord glanced at Emperor Yan coldly, and Emperor Yan lost the courage to take a step forward. It was as if his heart had been bawled out by Xingzun. Oh God! If he had known that the Lord was a lunatic, he would not have invited Xingzun to the banquet no matter what. This was not a meal but a torture. Everyone in the meeting hall was trembling and did not dare to breathe loudly. The meeting hall fell into a strange silence once again. Only two people in the meeting hall were unaffected. One was naturally the Lord, and the other was Hei Xinjiao, who had just finished eating a meat bun and was sipping water. Shengzun was the Lord's Lord, and Hei Xinjiao was the Lord's Lord. This fellow's skin was unusually thick. Since he had already been discovered, there was no need to hide it. What was wrong with the palace maids? Were the palace maids not human? They should eat, drink, and do whatever they wanted. As for the matter of pouring wine, Hei Xinjiao really hadn't connected it to herself. There were so many palace maids, why would she be needed? So she hid behind and ate and drank with peace of mind. Yes, the kind that was self-sufficient. Emperor Yan heard Hei Xinjiao sipping water and suddenly felt blessed. Could it be that the Lord had asked Xingzun to serve wine? He said tentatively, "What's her name?" "Yes, she's the one who drank the water. Why aren't you pouring the wine for the Lord?" Hei Xinjiao was stunned for a moment. So the lunatic was asking her to pour the wine? This bullshit Lord was really pretentious. If he wanted her to pour the wine, he could have just said so. He only said the word "pour the wine." Who knew who was going to pour the wine for him? Besides, there were so many palace maids. Why did she have to pour the wine? Did she look good? Hei Xinjiao cursed in her heart, but she still obediently went to the side of the Lord and picked up the wine pot on the table to pour a cup of wine for Xingzun. Shengzun picked up the wine cup and drank the wine in one gulp. He said coldly, "Pour the wine." Hei Xinjiao could only pour another cup, and Xingzun drank it in one gulp. The Lord drank one cup after another. Hei Shinjio could only pour one cup after another as she cursed in her heart. Damn it, this shitty lord was actually a drunkard. However, this fellow's gaze was quickly attracted to Xingzun's hands. Why were these hands so similar to the hands of a gigolo? This fellow must have lost his mind. He actually stretched out his claws to touch it. In the meeting hall, everyone was stunned. Oh my god, does that red and green couple want to die? They actually openly touched the hand of Xingzun? Does she want to die? It's fine if you want to die, but don't implicate them. After Hei Xinjia's paw touched Xingzun's hand, the cold touch instantly woke her up. Has she lost her mind? Why did she touch this crazy person's hand? However, it was not a big deal. Strangers in the future could shake hands with each other. It was not a big deal for her to touch this shitty lord's hand. At most, she would not tell the gigolo. However, this guy thought that since he had already touched the lord's hand, it was a good opportunity to take a look at the lord's right hand. She remembered that there was a horizontal line on D. Biming's right palm. At that time, she even teased him and said that it was a broken palm. The lord frowned slightly and suddenly pulled his hand out of Hei Xinjia's demonic claw. Then he snorted coldly, "Flower addict." After saying that, the lord flicked his sleeve and left the meeting hall with a whoosh. Everyone only saw an afterimage. Hei Shinjio, flower addict? Which eye of his saw her flower addict? She just wanted to see if he was a gigolo. Although there were many suspicious points, she always felt that this lord was very similar to a gigolo. Could it really be her imagination? The meeting hall fell into a strange silence again. Suddenly, Princess Wang Yu got up from the ground and pointed at Yun Chujio fiercely. "Men, kill this lowly servant who offended the lord." Yun Chujio, "Fuck! Xingzun! 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 Xingzun!" Hei Shinjio sat down on the lord's seat and said pretentiously, "I'm the lord's subordinate. Who dares to touch me?" No one knew whether it was the lord's name or Hei Xinjia's imposing manner, but none of the imperial guards dared to come forward. Princess Wang Yu was so angry that her eyes were red. "You all don't want to live anymore, do you? Do you all listen to her or to me? I found this Ru Hua from outside. She is not the lord's person at all. Kill her for me." When the imperial guards heard Princess Wang Yu's words, they immediately surrounded Hei Shinjio. Buttface was also among the imperial guards. After hesitating for a moment, he stood beside Hei Shinjio and said with a trembling voice, Little fairy, what should we do?" It was not that Buttface was loyal to Yun Chujio, but that he had relied on Yun Chujio's connections to enter the Nightmare Clan's imperial palace as a guard. If Hei Shinjio could not heal him, he would not be able to live. He might as well give it his all. Hei Shinjio took out a chair from her storage ring. She said to Buttface, "What do you mean, what should we do? Are you hungry? Let's eat first. I'm warning you. You have to figure out who is more powerful, the Lord or that ugly princess of yours. After all, you only have one life." Buttface looked at Hei Shinjio, who was gnawing on a chicken drumstick, and then at the dumbfounded guards around him. He felt that he must not have woken up. Really, this was all a dream. It was best to wake up immediately from a nightmare. Princess Wang Yu was so angry that she was about to explode. That red and green couple actually called her an ugly freak? All of you kill her. I want to cut her into 1,000 pieces. Princess Wang Yu shouted in exasperation. The imperial guards of the Yen clan's imperial palace did not move when they heard Princess Wang Yu's order. They looked at Hei Shinjio, who was feasting on her food, and muttered in their hearts, "This person clearly has nothing to fear. Could she really be a person of the Lord?" That's right. Previously, the Lord had insisted that she pour the wine for Xingzun to drink. Only a ghost would believe it if it was fine. Also, the Lord was such a perverted person. He was actually touched by this red and green duo and did not kill her. What did this mean? It meant that the Lord treated this red and green duo differently. As for Princess Wang Yu wanting to kill them, there was still Emperor Yen up there. Moreover, the law did not punish everyone. Could she really kill all of them? Hence, Those imperial guards of the Yen clan's imperial palace were tacitly watching He Xingjiu eating and drinking. Not one of them dared to make a move. When Princess Wang Yu saw that those imperial guards did not listen to her orders, she was so angry that she almost fainted. They had rebelled. These people had rebelled. Just as Princess Wang Yu was about to personally kill Yun Chujio, Emperor Yen glared at her. Wang Yu, shut up. Men, send the princess back to Wang Yu Palace and recuperate in Wang Yu Palace for the time being. Princess Wang Yu could not believe her ears. Had her father gone mad? He was actually defending that red and green couple? And he had even grounded her? Before Princess Wang Yu could fly into a rage, she was forcefully taken away by the maidservant beside the Empress. The Empress was much more sensible than Princess Wang Yu. There was not only one prince in the harem, nor was there only one princess. If she offended Emperor Yen, she might not even be able to hold on to her position as the Empress. The Empress tried to figure out Emperor Yan's intentions, then she smiled and said to He Xingjiu, Miss Ru Hua, I've spoiled Wang Yu so much that he's very impetuous. Don't take it to heart. These dishes are a little cold. Why don't I send someone to serve you some new dishes? The Empress naturally did not mean to serve He Xingjiu any new dishes. She just wanted to give both parties a way out. Who would have thought that there was someone who really did not know how to be polite? Alright, then he'll have to trouble the Empress. Alright, bring me more meat dishes. I don't like to eat tasteless vegetables, He Xingjiu said as she chewed on the drumstick. The Empress, however, since the words had already left her mouth, she could only order someone to remove the cold dishes on the table and order the imperial kitchen to bring the newly cooked dishes over. He Xingjiu looked at the table full of delicacies and immediately smiled. She said to the dumbfounded crowd, Don't just stand there. Let's eat together. Also, the dance just now looked pretty good to me. Hurry up and make them dance. It's such a beautiful day. If we let them down like this, we'll be struck by lightning. Boom. An explosion of lightning struck the roof of the meeting hall. Fortunately, the meeting hall was very sturdy and did not suffer any damage. He Xingjiu laughed dryly. Coincidence, coincidence, it's purely a coincidence. Come, continue eating. Emperor Yen and the rest's attitude towards Yun Chujio immediately changed. If it was only for the sake of the Lord's face before, now there was a little fear. This red and green pair said that the lightning had attracted heavenly lightning. If they offended her, wouldn't they be struck by lightning? Therefore, even though everyone did not know the taste of food, they still perfunctorily accompanied He Xingjiu to eat and drink. The Lord, who had returned, originally thought that he would see He Xingjiu being beaten up by the crowd. Who would have thought that not only was He Xingjiu fine, she even took over Xingzun's seat and ate and drank. While commenting on the singing and dancing, it was extremely nourishing. He Xingjiu was eating and drinking like a tiger, feeling her scalp go numb. She looked up and saw the Lord staring at her at the entrance of the temple. Xingzun was staring at her with a gloomy expression. The other people in the meeting hall also felt the intimidating pressure. Why did this fiend come back? The singing and dancing stopped abruptly, and the meeting hall was suddenly filled with a strange silence. Burp. A loud burp broke the silence. He Xingjiu was probably too guilty, and could not help but burp. He Xingjiu wondered in her heart, why did this psycho suddenly come back? This guy stood up and said with an embarrassed smile, Xingzun, I thought you were full. Come, the food is still warm, come and eat it quickly. Xingzun gave He Xingjiu a cold look, then turned around and left the meeting hall. He Xingjiu was dumbfounded. Was he crazy? Could it be that he just wanted to glare at her? Crazy. He was as crazy as the pretty boy. This guy's heart was really big. He said to the crowd, My lord must have lost his way, so he came here. Come, let's continue eating. That dance just now was pretty good. Keep dancing. The crowd looked at Emperor Yen blankly. Emperor Yen waved his hand to indicate that they should follow Yun Chujia's instructions. Emperor Yan's heart was in a mess. He had a bad feeling. This red and green combination seemed to be even more difficult to deal with than the Lord. Where did Wang Yu get such an ancestor from? An hour later, Hei Shinjio finally had her fill. She staggered out of the meeting hall. Before she left, she didn't forget to take her bag with her. "Little fairy, where are we going now? Are we going out of the palace?" But Face naturally followed behind Hei Shinjio. Now, he had nowhere else to go except for Hei Shinjio. "Out of the palace? Let's go, it'll take you to the temple." Hei Shinjio wasn't stupid. She felt that the Lord was apparently very tolerant of her. At least, he didn't seem to have much killing intent. However, she didn't think that Shengzun would kill her. What was the reason? Yun Chujio could not figure it out. She felt that Shengzun was very similar to the gigolo. Although there were many differences, she still felt that the two of them were strangely similar. Therefore, he decided to return to the temple and find an opportunity to look at Shengzun's right hand. He could not change his palm print even if he changed it. Little fairy, can't we go somewhere else?" But Face's legs went weak when he heard that they were going to the temple. "I'm going to the temple anyway, so you can do whatever you want." But Face thought about it and realized that he had nowhere else to go except to follow this troublemaker. If he separated from her, he might lose his life immediately, so he could only follow Hei Shinjio. When the two arrived at the gate of the temple, they found that the gate was tightly shut. Hei Shinjio went up and knocked on the door. A triangular-eyed guard opened the door a crack and said gloatingly, "Rua, the Lord said that you should never come to the temple again. Get as far away as you can." Hei Shinjio, holy shit. She was kicked out just because she occupied the nest of Shengzun and had a meal? Wasn't this lord a little too narrow-minded? Shengzun thought. This fellow rolled her eyes. The reason why Emperor Yen didn't send anyone to touch her was because he was afraid of the Lord. If she was kicked out of the temple, she might be killed by that little bitch, Princess Wang Yu, in a minute. Therefore, he had to think of a way to get in. This fellow recalled that during the day, it was because he had sung that lullaby that Shengzun had sung. So, this guy repeated the same trick, humming and singing. Hei Shinjio sang until her throat was smoking. There was no movement in the temple, and the lights were off. It was obvious that the Lord had gone to sleep. Damn it. This was too much of a bully. Forget it. There was nothing that could not be solved with a good night's sleep. He would sleep first. Therefore, this fellow took out a small omnipotent tent and placed it at the entrance of the temple. He said to Buttface, "I'm going to rest now. Do as you wish." Buttface, didn't he say that he would take him to the temple for a walk? Didn't he say that he would take him to fly with him from now on? Was he going to be a watchdog at the entrance of the temple? Although Buttface was dumbfounded, he still sat beside the tent and meditated. No matter what, the entrance of the temple was better than other places. The next day, Buttface woke up early. He couldn't fall asleep even if he had something on his mind. He thought that Hei Shinjio would wake up early as well, but the sun was already high up in the sky, and Hei Shinjio was still asleep. But Face thought to himself, this guy's heart is really big. Wasn't she afraid that the Lord would ignore Shengzun from now on? Wasn't she afraid that Emperor Yen would settle the score later? After waiting for a while, Hei Shinjio finally came out of the tent. She stretched her back before she staggered to the entrance of the temple and began to knock on the door. "Lord, it's been a whole night. You should be less angry now, right? I was just using Shengzun as an excuse. Do you have to be so angry?" Yun Chujio shouted a few times, and footsteps came from inside. Hei Shinjio was delighted. She didn't expect that it was the triangular-eyed guard who came out from Sanjiaoyan. The triangular-eyed guard gloated, "Rua, the Lord said that you should go where you came from. If you make any more noise outside the temple, the Lord will slap you away." Go wherever you come from? Damn it, she could go wherever she wanted, but unfortunately she could not go back. Shengzun rolled his eyes, stretched his neck and shouted, "Hey! Lord, I can help you do what you want to do. Let's talk." There was still no movement inside the temple. Hei Shinjio was angry. It seemed that the Lord was determined to drive her away. Fuck, so be it. If I don't stay here, I'll have my own place to stay. This guy turned around and walked a few steps. After thinking for a while, he still could not do it. If she wanted to return to the immortal Yuan continent, She could only hug the Lord's thigh tightly. Forget it, she could just forget about her integrity and face. Therefore, this guy returned to the entrance of the temple and shouted, "Shengzun, I was wrong. I shouldn't have only cared about eating and not pouring wine for you yesterday. I shouldn't have used your name to bully others." There was still no movement inside the temple. Hei Xinjiu gritted her teeth. Shengzun shouted, "My lord, I shouldn't have touched your hands secretly. I swear that I have no ill intentions towards you. I have a fiancé." There was still no movement inside the temple. Hei Xinjiu pursed her lips. It seemed that there was really nothing she could do. She couldn't beat Shengzun, so she couldn't force her way in, could she? Forget it, I'll think of another way. Let's leave the palace first. Not long after Hei Xinjiu walked out with Buttface, she was stopped by Princess Wang Yu and a group of guards. "Take down this bitch. Do you really think you're a phoenix? But you ugly freak is simply causing trouble," Princess Wang Yu said viciously. "Scram to the side." Hei Xinjiu was fuming in her heart, so she naturally did not have a good expression. Princess Wang Yu gritted her teeth in anger. With a wave of her hand, the guards behind her rushed forward. Hei Xinjiu narrowed her eyes. Although her spiritual power was not considered high in the immortal Yuan continent, it was considered pretty good in the Dark Continent. However, she had adjusted her spiritual power to the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm. Did these people still think that she was a pushover? Today, she would show them how powerful little fairy Jiu was. Just as Hei Xinjiu was about to make a move, the guards flew out like kites with broken strings, and continuous wails could be heard. Hei Xinjiu was stunned. "Io, is she so powerful now? She could kill people with her mind alone?" Just as she was enjoying herself, she heard a cold voice behind her, "Get in here." "Get your ass in here?" Hei Xinjiu was dazed for a moment before she realized that it was the voice of the crazy Lord Shengzun. Did he agree to let her enter the temple? Did he slap those guards away? Hei Xinjiu suddenly felt more confident. She pointed at Princess Wang Yu and said, "Bah! How dare you say that I'm ugly? Let me tell you, you are the ugliest person in the entire palace. No, in the entire Nightmare Clan. Not only are you ugly, you are also stupid. If I were you, I would just find a piece of tofu and kill myself." After Hei Xinjiu finished speaking, she ran towards the temple. What a joke. If she didn't run, would she be waiting to be beaten up? But Face wanted to cry but had no tears as he followed behind her. In terms of the ability to cause trouble and gain hatred points, no one in the Dark Continent could compare to this person. This person was seeking death by playing tricks. She did not think that the Lord would leave the Dark Continent sooner or later. Wouldn't the royal family still have the final say then? Could it be that she still had the delusion that the Lord could bring her out of the Dark Continent? When Hei Xinjiu ran to the entrance of the temple, a guard opened the temple door eagerly. Yun Chujiu quickly brought Buttface into the temple. After Yun Chujiu entered the temple, she immediately saw the triangular-eyed guard who was trying his best to reduce his presence in Sanjiaoyan. Hei Xinjiu walked to his side with a sinister smile. "You were quite happy to see me make a fool of myself just now, weren't you?" No, Miss Ruhua, no, Aunt Ruhua, please spare me. I was wrong," the triangular-eyed guard said in a humble voice. He felt as if his heart was going to explode. He did not expect the Lord to change his mind and take in this red and green couple. If he had known earlier, he would not have offended this red and green couple. "If you leave the temple now, I will spare your life. Otherwise, I will kill you." Hei Xinjiu was never someone who would be at a disadvantage. Moreover, if she did not chase someone out, how could she let Buttface take over? The triangle-eyed man looked at the guard's little leader for help. The little leader looked as if he was blind. He did not even look at him. Instead, he looked up at the sky. The weather today was just right. The clouds in the sky were really white. San Jiaoyan looked at the sword in Hei Xinjiu's hand and left the temple dejectedly. Hei Xinjiu pursed her lips and said to the leader, "Buttface is my man. He will replace San Jiaoyan in the future. You all better be sensible. I will kill whoever offends me." San Jiaoyan and the others nodded. They were actually quite confused. Where did this red and green couple get their confidence from? Didn't she think that she was too arrogant? Didn't she think that her position was too high? Wasn't she just a palace maid? What right did she have to be so arrogant? What right did she have to be so shameless? Buttface stood behind He Xinjiu with a complicated look on his face. Although he was seeking death by playing tricks, he had to admit that it felt really good to act cool. After He Xinjiu acted cool, she sneaked to the door of Xingzun's study and hesitated whether she should go in or not. This guy rolled his eyes and shouted into the room, "Xingzun, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to my own room to rest." The guards of the sacred palace cursed in their hearts. Shameless. Which room in the sacred palace is yours? He Xinjiu also realized this problem. Which room was hers? Before Xingzun could figure it out, he heard the Lord's gloomy voice from the study room, "Get in here. Get out of my face." This crazy lord doesn't seem to know how to speak human language. He Xinjiu grumbled a little before obediently entering the Xingzun's study. In the study, the Xingzun held a sheepskin scroll in his hand and was flipping through it. He Xinjiu glanced at it and saw that there were 5 words written in the ancient language of the Yen clan, "Fallen God Abyss." This fellow's heart skipped a beat. Fallen God Abyss? As the name implied, wasn't that the place where the gods died? If this Xingzun was reading such a book, it meant that he must be a demon. So it was an old demon. He must have some evil idea to be so tolerant of her. Could it be that he knew that she had the Heaven Punisher axe, so he didn't fall out with her? That was not right. She had never revealed her cleaver, and she had taken a disguise pill. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have recognized her. What was he trying to do? Just when He Xinjiu was puzzled, the Lord placed the sheepskin scroll on the desk and stared at He Xinjiu gloomily. "Are you a human? Do you want me to take you out of the Dark Continent?" Yun Chujia's heart sank. Since he had already asked, it meant that he had already confirmed it. There was no point in refuting her. She might as well play along. Therefore, He Xinjiu said with a smile, "Xingzun is indeed Xingzun. That's right, I'm a human. I want to return to the immortal Yuan continent. I wonder if Xingzun can help me?" Xingzun curled his lips and remained silent. He just tapped the desk with his fingers, which sounded like he was tapping on He Xinjia's heart. He Xinjia's heart was in a mess. She looked at Xingzun warily and told Xiao Hanio in her heart that if Xingzun made trouble, she must curse him immediately so that she could escape. Finally, Xingzun stopped tapping the desk and said with a faint smile, "It's not impossible to take you to the immortal Yuan continent, but you have to tell me how you came to the Dark Continent." He Xinjiu rolled her eyes. Although the entrance of the miasma area was not important, how could she explain that she was not afraid of the miasma? Therefore, the guy said, "When we humans were fighting against the Yen clan in the immortal Yuan continent, I was captured. Those people of the Yen clan sacrificed me to their holy beast. The holy beast looked very fierce, and it had 4 vertical pupils that looked like snakes. I was going to die, but I didn't expect to be in the Dark Continent when I woke up. I don't know what exactly happened." Meng Yanshou, who did it offend? Why was the blame placed on its head? She was the one who insisted on barging into the poisonous miasma area, all right? She was the one who risked her life to block the exit of the nightmare air, all right? Shameless. The Lord chuckled after hearing Yun Chujia's words. He Xinjiu could hear the disdain and ridicule in her voice. The little flame in her heart rose up quickly, but this guy was cowardly and did not dare to make a sound. Xingzun did not dare to say anything. "Stop playing tricks in front of me. You came from the Yen clan's poisonous miasma area, didn't you?" Xingzun said coldly. Yun Chujia's heart skipped a beat, however, she had a blank expression on her face. Poisonous miasma area? Maybe the Yen clan's holy beast threw me into the poisonous miasma area. I'm really lucky. If I didn't fall into the Dark Continent, I would have been poisoned to death by the poisonous miasma. Sheng Ziyuan's expression became even more mocking. It's okay if you don't tell the truth. You can follow me, and I will bring you back to the immortal Yuan continent. However, you must listen to my arrangements unconditionally. If you don't listen to my arrangements, then we will not interfere with each other. Yun Chujio immediately promised, Xingzun, don't worry. I will definitely listen to your arrangements. So, what should I do now? Xingzun glanced at her with a look of disdain. Stay as far away from me as possible. Hey Xinjiao, in that case, I will get as far away as possible. You are busy. After saying this, Hei Xinjiao left the study room and gently closed the door. This guy gritted his teeth. What the fuck? Did he think that she was willing to stay with him? If it was not for the sake of returning to the immortal Yuan continent, she would not have bothered with him. Pooey. Shameless. Hei Xinjiao walked out of the study room and looked around. The sacred hall was very big and there were plenty of rooms. This guy selected a room and finally chose a room that was close to the Lord's bedroom. The reason why this guy chose this room was because, firstly, this room was indeed the best. Secondly, this guy had little Jiujiu in his heart and was closer to that psycho. If there was any movement, she would be the first to know. When the guards saw that Hei Xinjiao had chosen a room openly, they had a sudden realization. It seemed that the Lord had really taken a liking to the red and green combination. Could it be that the Lord did not have good eyesight? Hei Xinjiao used her power to command the guards to clean the room. Then, she pointed at the guards' leader and said, Go and find that Xingzun. Tell him that the Lord's meals will be delivered according to the standards of yesterday's banquet. All right, tell him to prepare double portions. Although the head of the guards thought that Hei Xinjiao was a little shameless to ask for double portions, he did not know how luxurious the banquet of the Lord was yesterday, so he eagerly went to find General Manager Ji. After listening to the words of the head of the guards, General Manager Jis' face broke down. According to the standard of yesterday's banquet? Was this Ru Hua trying to raise the Lord like a pig? However, he did not dare to make the decision and quickly reported the matter to Emperor Yen. Emperor Yen glared at him. Regardless of whether it's that Ru Hua or the Lord's order, just follow it. It's just some food. If you anger the Lord, the consequences will be unimaginable. Hence, ever since Hei Xinjiao moved in, the standard of food in the sacred hall had undergone a qualitative leap. This fellow was not stingy. He often rewarded the good dishes to the guards. Well, the portion was given to the Lord, and this fellow saved his portion. For a few days, nothing happened. Sheng Zun stayed in the study room except for his bedroom. He did not cause any trouble for Hei Xinjiao. The more Hei Xinjiao thought about it, the more suspicious Sheng Zun became. Therefore, she sat in her room and let out the nightmare beast. Curly hair. I think that Sheng Zun looks like someone I know. Have you seen Sheng Zun's face before? Haha. I'm dying of laughter. I'm dying of laughter. Do you know that Sha Xing? Forget it. Meng Yanshou laughed so hard that he rolled on the ground. Yun Chujiu was so angry that she kicked the nightmare beast to the wall. For the 10,000th time, the nightmare beast despised its host body. It was fucking weak. Little fairy, can you not be so unreasonable? Can you not be so unreasonable? Didn't I just laugh a few times? Do you have to treat me like this? After all, I am an ancient ferocious beast. I have no face at all. Besides, what's wrong with me laughing? How can you know that fiend? If you know that fiend, I'll choose a pig next time I choose a host body. Meng Yanshou said angrily. Hei Xinjiao frowned. Although there are many things that are out of place, I just feel that they are very similar. I'll definitely find an opportunity to verify it again. Meng Yanshou obviously remembered to eat and not to hit that group. He leaned over and asked, By the way, little fairy, who is the person you know? What's his relationship with you? He is my fiancé. He also ascended from the Tian Yuan continent. Because Meng Yanshou was half a soul. Therefore, Yun Chujiu did not establish a contractual relationship with Meng Yanshou. Therefore, Yun Chujiu was still somewhat wary of Meng Yanshou, so she naturally would not tell it everything. Ascended from the Tian Yuan continent? That is even more impossible. That person has lived for a long time. However, little fairy, if that person is really your fiancé, what would you do? You have to know that that person's identity is not simple. Meng Yanshou asked curiously. Yun Chujio smiled. What's there to do? I love that person, not his identity. Not to mention that he's some saint, even if he's an old devil, I still love him. I don't care about the righteous path or the evil path. I don't care who I want to love. If he is a god, I will accompany him to save all living things. If he is a devil, I will accompany him to turn the tables. Of course, I will not do anything that harms the heavens. I am a very kind person, you know that. Meng Yanshou, although it felt that the last sentence was hypocritical, it had to admit that the little girl's previous words still shocked it. There was such a casual woman in the world? Ignoring the other party's status, only loving him? Woo-woo, as an ashes-level single beast, it really wanted to have such a wife. Curly hair, you haven't told me yet. Have you seen the face of the Lord? Hey Xingjiu urged Xingzun. Meng Yanshou shook its head like a rattledrum. I haven't seen him. Not only have I not seen him, few people have. Well, can you stop asking about him? I'm hungry. Give me a few more pieces of that whatever it is cake. It's the most delicious cake I've ever eaten. Get lost. You foodie. The conversation between the man and the beast was clearly heard by Xingzun through his spiritual sense. Xingzun was stunned for a long time. Then he slowly curled his lips and withdrew his spiritual sense. The next morning, before He Xingjiu woke up, she heard Xingzun's cold voice from outside. If you don't come out in 15 minutes, I'll leave on my own. After hearing Xingzun's words, He Xingjiu jumped up from the bed in fear. I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Xingzun cursed in his heart, this lunatic. Why didn't he tell her at dinner yesterday? He must have done it on purpose. He Xingjiu ran out of the house. Xingzun, where are we going? Are we coming back? The Lord looked at He Xingjiu coldly. Just follow Xingzun. He's so noisy. He Xingjiu, forget it. But a pig's nose in a big green onion. He Xingjiu rolled her eyes and said to Buttface, Buttface, follow me. This guy was afraid that Xingzun would not return to the palace. If he left Buttface here alone, he would definitely die, so it was better to take him away. Xingzun frowned indiscernibly, but he did not say anything and walked out of the temple. After walking for a short while, He Xingjiu said, Lord, aren't we going to ride swords? Are we going to walk? Xingzun looked at her as if she was an idiot. I'm going to the library in the palace. Do I need to ride swords? He Xingjiu, fuck. You lunatic. Why did you call her to the library? If she had known that this lunatic was going to the library, she would have obediently read the storybook in the temple. However, this fellow's eyes suddenly lit up. There might be a good storybook in the Yen clan's library, so there was no harm in going to take a look. Therefore, this fellow said to Buttface who was behind him, It's none of your business. Go back to the temple. If anyone makes things difficult for you, tell them my name and scare them to death. Buttface was dumbfounded. He thought to himself, telling them your name would probably kill them faster, right? Thinking of this, he quickly ran back to the temple, afraid that he would run into Princess Wang Yu's people. He Xingjiu touched her nose in embarrassment and followed behind Xingzun. Everyone in the palace was stunned. Oh my god, Xingzun actually came out of the temple? Everyone consciously kneeled on the ground, extremely pious. He Xingjiu pursed her lips. What was there to be afraid of about this lunatic? If she didn't still want to use him to return to the immortal Yuan continent, she would have killed him in a minute. Meng Yanshou was so angry that he was amused. Where did she get this confidence from? She even wanted to kill that person? That person could easily turn her into ashes with a wave of his hand. However, that person seemed to be much weaker than before. Could it be that she was injured? However, even if she was much weaker, it would still be a piece of cake for her to kill He Xingjiu. This little girl really overestimated herself. How would the nightmare beast know that He Xingjiu was purely playing around with herself? Of course, she knew that she could not defeat Xingzun. Otherwise, why would she compromise like this? When Emperor Yen heard his subordinate report that Shengzun had come out of the sacred hall, he hurried over. Shengzun, what are your orders? What do you need me to do? Emperor Yen asked in fear and trepidation. Shengzun stopped but didn't say anything. Instead, he glanced at He Xinjiu who was behind him. He Xinjiu immediately understood and said with a smug look, Our Shengzun wants to go to the library to take a look. Your Majesty, please send someone to lead the way for us. Emperor Yen hurriedly nodded his head and muttered in his heart, This red and green match has really caught the Lord's eye? He even brought her to the library? Emperor Yen was afraid that others would offend the Lord, so he asked Shengzun to accompany him. Shengzun had no choice but to lead the way carefully. Shengzun felt that the distance from the sacred palace to the library was so long. His clothes were all wet. Shengzun's pressure was too frightening. Finally, they arrived at the Yen clan's imperial palace's library. He Xinjiu pondered in her heart. When the Yen clan left the Dark Continent, they should have taken a lot of books with them. Could there be any books that Shengzun would be interested in? General Manager Ji let the Lord and He Xinjiu into the library in fear and trepidation. He Xinjiu sized them up. The library of the Yen clan's imperial palace wasn't small, but there were pitifully few books. Most likely, the books from back then had been brought to the immortal Yuan continent. He Xinjiu sized them up as she wondered what this crazy lord was looking for in this library. Shengzun? Is there a book that he needs here? Just as He Xinjiu was wondering, Shengzun picked up a book and sat down on the chair next to him to read. He Xinjiu was stunned. Could it be that this crazy lord did not have any goal and was just here to read to pass the time? He Xinjiu secretly observed for a while. Seeing that Shengzun was concentrating on reading, she also began to pick and choose. This guy specially picked some strange stories and other books to read. When he saw the contents of one of the books, his eyes immediately lit up. Thousand-leaf golden grade lotus. The transformation pill only lacked this herb. He did not expect that the Dark Continent actually had a thousand-leaf golden grade lotus. He Xinjiu took a closer look. The contents of the book only briefly introduced the thousand-leaf golden grade lotus and its effects. At the end of the book, she wrote, Although the thousand-leaf golden grade lotus is only a low-grade heaven-grade lotus, it is extremely rare. It is said that there are thousand-leaf golden grade lotuses growing in the fallen god abyss. He Xinjiu was stunned. Fallen god abyss? The deranged holy lord had read a book a few days ago called Strange Records of the Fallen God Abyss. She wondered if Shengzun would go there. If he did, she could get some lotus seeds of the thousand-leaf golden grade lotus. Just as Shengzun was thinking about it, he heard the Lord say with slight disdain, How can there be such a vulgar book in the library of the nightmare race's imperial palace? As he said that, a book was thrown not far away from He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu subconsciously stretched her neck and took a look. Her eyes immediately lit up when she saw a few big words written on the cover of the book, 72 male concubines of the domineering empress. Initially, she did not have much hope. She thought that there would not be such a storybook in the palace library. She did not expect that there would really be one. This fellow glanced at the Lord and saw that the Lord was looking down at the book. This fellow quietly picked up the storybook, then deliberately hid in a corner and began to read it happily. Shengzun looked at He Xinjiu with a smile on his face. Needless to say, although the spiritual power of this nightmare race was a little inferior, the standard of this storybook was still pretty good. After He Xinjiu finished reading the script, she found that there were several books on the ground beside the Lord. Apparently, they were all despised. They were all scripts that He Xinjiu liked. Shengzun. He Xinjiu blinked her eyes and walked over to pick up the scripts on the ground. When she was about to turn around and read happily, she heard the Lord say in a low voice, Stop. He Xinjiu's heart sank and she said nonchalantly, Shengzun, since you don't want to read them, I'll put them back for you. I don't think there should be such a vulgar book in the library of the palace, so I'm going to destroy it. I remember that there's another one that was thrown to your side. Hand it over, the Lord said coldly. Hei Xingjiu rolled her eyes and said, Xingzun, you are absolutely right. It's true that these vulgar books should be destroyed, but you have a body of 10,000 gold. It's a waste to ask you to destroy these books. I'll do it for you. Hei Xingjiu felt that it had been almost a century before Xingzun said coldly, That's fine. There's still a lot of them over there. Put them away and destroy them when you go out. Alright, don't worry, I promise not to miss a single book. Hei Xingjiu smiled like a flower as she ran in the direction that Xingzun was pointing at. Xingzun looked at Hei Xingjiu's back, which was as happy as a rabbit. The corners of his mouth curled up as he continued to read the book in his hand. Hei Xingjiu was like a little mouse that had fallen into a rice vat. She felt like she was about to faint from the sudden happiness. There were many storybooks that she liked. This guy kept collecting them into his storage ring. He had already thought of a countermeasure. If the Lord asked her to destroy them, she would destroy the storybooks in the storage ring. Anyway, that lunatic wouldn't read them carefully. She was too smart. After collecting the storytelling book, Hei Xingjiu hid behind a bookshelf and started to read it happily. In the evening, after they left the library, Hei Xingjiu was worried that the Lord would mention the storytelling book. After all, she couldn't bear to destroy the storytelling book that she had collected before. However, the Lord seemed to have forgotten about it and didn't mention it. Instead, he said, We will leave the royal palace of Yen clan tomorrow. You should make some preparations. Hei Xingjiu nodded hurriedly and ran back to her room, afraid that the Lord would mention Xingzun's storybook. The next day, after breakfast, the Lord summoned his sword and soared into the sky. Hei Xingjiu blinked her eyes and said, Buttface, ride your sword and fly with me. Buttface asked in confusion, Little fairy, don't you have a chopping board? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up. Otherwise, we won't be able to catch up. Hei Xingjiu wasn't sure what the Lord meant, so she thought it was better not to expose her identity. Hei Xingjiu could ride her sword by herself, but this guy was used to sitting on a chopping board. His sword riding skills were terrible and he was lazy. But Face had to call out his sword, and then he flew into the air with Hei Xingjiu, chasing after the Lord in front of Xingzun. Xingzun turned around and saw Buttface and Hei Xingjiu on the flying sword. He frowned and his face darkened. Buttface and Hei Xingjiu, who were whispering to each other, suddenly felt the flying sword tremble violently and fall to the ground. Many onlookers gathered below Xingzun, who was flying on the flying sword with an infatuated look on their faces. They didn't expect that the flying sword behind Xingzun would fall to the ground. They were all shocked. Io! What the hell are those two at the back? Why did they fall from the sky? Isn't it simple? They must have been convinced by Xingzun's charm, so they forgot how to ride a sword. Those two are really stupid. This is the first time I've seen someone fall from a flying sword. Hei Xingjiu, who was bitten by a dog, gnashed her teeth in anger. She didn't believe that Buttface could have an accident while riding a sword. It must be the work of that crazy Xingzun. Although he didn't fall, it was too damn embarrassing. Crazy, just you wait. It's never too late for little Gio to take revenge. We'll see. Buttface wanted to cry, but he had no tears. He was too ashamed to see anyone fall from a flying sword. However, the two of them did not have the time to be sad because the Lord was almost gone. If they did not catch up, they would be left behind by Xingzun. Therefore, Buttface once again rode his sword and quickly chased after Xingzun. Hei Xingjiu stared at Xingzun's back and cursed nonstop. Of course, Xingzun did not make a sound. While he was cursing, he realized that his body had moved from Buttface's flying sword to Xingzun's flying sword. This guy's heart sank. Could he have been discovered? Hei Xingjiu realized that her worries were unnecessary because the Lord did not say anything. It seemed that he only asked her to change her flying tool. At first, she did not feel anything, but as time passed, she felt a little uncomfortable. Because the sword of the Lord was not particularly broad, the distance between the two was very close. She could even feel the hot breath of the Lord brushing past her ear. She felt inexplicably ambiguous. Well, Shengzun, I'd better go with Buttface. I won't trouble you. Hey, Shinjio said. Shengzun just looked at her coldly. Either stay here or don't follow me. Hey Shinjio felt that this sentence was very similar to the pretty boy's, die or get lost. Was there really such a similar person in this world? Hey Xinjia's gaze fell on Shengzun's right hand. She would definitely find an opportunity to verify it. Hey Shinjio had no choice but to continue to stay on Shengzun's flying sword. Buttface, who was behind them, looked at the back view of the two. He thought to himself, why does this Shengzun and the bad news bag look so compatible? Moreover, it seemed like they were a couple. His eyes must be playing tricks on him. The Lord was probably just looking for a maid. Although the bad news bag was good-looking, she looked like an ordinary person now. How could the Lord like her? After flying for half a day, Hei Shinjio finally realized what was going on. Was she stupid? The chopping board was afraid of being exposed. She could totally summon a flying spiritual device. Therefore, Shengzun quickly said, My lord, it's too hard for you to ride the sword. Let's ride the flying spirit tool. Shengzun looked at her as if he was looking at an idiot. Flying spirit tools cannot fly in the dark continent. Otherwise, do you think I'm as stupid as you? Hey Shinjio, fuck, I can't talk properly anymore. Crazy. Hey Shinjio comforted herself and thought that it was a pig behind her. What could humans have with a pig? Yes, that's right, there was a pig behind her. Hey Shinjio immediately began to imagine that the Lord with a pig's head could not help but giggle. Shengzun frowned and asked coldly, What are you laughing at? Ha, ha. Nothing, I just thought of something funny. It has nothing to do with you, ha. Hey Shinjio laughed until she covered her stomach. The Lord frowned even more. For some reason, he felt that Hei Shinjio was laughing at him. But what was so funny about him? Buttface saw that the two of them were talking and laughing. For some reason, he felt that he was unnecessary. But for the sake of his life, it was better for him to follow them. Otherwise, Princess Wang Yu would not forgive him. After a series of self-hints, Hei Shinjio immediately threw the uneasiness to the back of her mind. After all, she was only pretending to be a gigolo. As long as she was doing the right thing, she would not feel guilty. Therefore, this guy took out a spirit fruit and started munching on it. He leisurely enjoyed the scenery around him and treated it as a free ride on a sightseeing bus. Well, there was also a pig-headed driver behind him. Seeing Hei Shinjio eating the fruit and enjoying the scenery, the Lord's eyes flashed with a faint light. The flying sword suddenly jolted. Hei Shinjio was caught off guard and almost fell off the flying sword. She only felt her waist tighten, so she was hugged by the Lord. Shengzun. Hei Xinjia's heart palpitated. Just when she was about to break free, the Lord had already let go of her hand and said coldly, You're really stupid. Do you want to fall again? Hearing the Lord's words, Hei Shinjio did not take it to heart. After all, even though the Lord looked like a lunatic, at least he did not look like a coyote. However, in the following period of time, the flying sword would bump every once in a while. Every time, the Lord would reach out and grab her waist. Shengzun felt that something was wrong. She turned around and glared at Shengzun. Shengzun, although I have a favor to ask of you, my heart belongs to someone else. Don't touch your claws everywhere, or else they'll be chopped off by you accidentally. Shengzun raised his eyebrows and sneered. You're really overthinking things. I'm just afraid that you'll fall down. Since you're so suspicious, I won't care about you anymore. Hei Shinjio saw that Shengzun's eyes did not have a trace of guilt. She was suspicious. Was she really thinking too much? Shengzun did not have any other intentions? Just as Hei Shinjio was thinking about this, the flying sword started to shake again. This time, Shengzun did not make a move. Hei Shinjio fell down from the flying sword sadly. Hei Xingjiu was about to summon the chopping board when the Sheng Zun's flying sword suddenly appeared beside her. Sheng Zun raised his hand and pulled her by her collar to pick her up. Sheng Zun did not say anything, he just snorted coldly. Hei Xingjiu felt a little guilty. Did she really blame him wrongly? However, this guy quickly reacted. Bullshit. He could control the flying sword so skillfully, how could he make the flying sword bounce frequently? What bad idea was he thinking? Yun Chujio did not think that she had such a great charm to make the Lord fall in love with her. There must be a conspiracy. Thus, Hei Xingjiu's impression of Sheng Zun became even worse. She felt even more conflicted. She made up her mind that once she returned to the immortal Yuan continent, she would stay far away from him. The rest of the journey went smoothly. Sheng Zun was like a perfect statue, standing motionlessly behind Yun Chujio. At first, Hei Xingjiu was still on guard, but when she saw that Sheng Zun didn't do anything else, she relaxed and took out a spirit fruit to continue chewing. However, it was fine at the beginning when she was on the flying sword. After standing for a long time, she was inevitably a little tired. Hei Xingjiu stretched her arms, legs, and waist. Just as she was about to take out her chopping board, Sheng Zun landed on the ground on his sword, followed by Buttface. They landed in a bustling town. Hei Xingjiu was puzzled. Why did this lunatic suddenly land? Was he looking for a place to eat? However, with his appearance, it was easy to cause a commotion, okay? As expected, almost in an instant, the entire street was filled with screams. Sheng Zun is here. Oh my God. I'm going to faint from happiness. I actually saw a living Sheng Zun. Quick, hurry up and call the second and third girls over. Maybe Sheng Zun has taken a fancy to them. Hei Xingjiu's mouth twitched. These people were even more fanatic than hardcore fans. Wasn't he just a lunatic? Was there a need to be so excited? The Lord was obviously used to this kind of situation. As if he hadn't seen Sheng Zun, he stepped into a carriage store. Hei Xingjiu was puzzled. What was this Lord doing in a carriage store? I want 8 black-horned horses and 2 carriages, the best, Sheng Zun said lightly. The owner of the carriage shop was so excited that he could not speak. He quickly asked the shop assistant to bring out the best 8 black-horned horses and a luxurious carriage. The Lord glanced at Hei Xingjiu. Pay up. Sheng Zun ordered Hei Xingjiu. Hei Xingjiu originally thought that the Lord had a conscience when he bought the carriage. Her impression of Sheng Zun had improved a little. She did not expect him to ask her to pay up now. Although Hei Xingjiu was unwilling, she did not dare to disobey him. She could only take out the nightmare stone to pay the bill. However, when this fellow boarded the carriage, she suddenly felt that spending money was worth it. The interior of the carriage was very spacious, and the interior was very comfortable. Hei Xingjiu rolled around inside the carriage. As expected, money was not wasted. It was still more comfortable to ride in the carriage. Just as this fellow was rolling around happily in the carriage, the curtain of the carriage was lifted. The Lord looked speechlessly at Hei Xingjiu, who was rolling around like a ball. When Hei Xingjiu saw the Lord, she sat up embarrassedly. Lord, weren't you sitting outside with Buttface? Why did you come in? Sheng Zun asked. The Lord looked at her coldly. This is my carriage. If I want to sit outside, I'll sit outside. If I want to sit inside, I'll sit inside. Do you have a problem with that? Your carriage? How shameless. She was the one who paid for it, all right? This was her carriage. Unfortunately, Sheng Zun only dared to curse in his heart. He laughed dryly and said, Of course I don't have any objections. I'm just asking casually. Sheng Zun curled his lips and said, It's better for girls not to be casual, or else. Sheng Zun did not continue, but it was obvious that he did not say anything nice after that. Hei Xingjiu was furious. She felt that she had not been scolded like this for a long time. It seemed that when she first met the gigolo, she was often scolded by the gigolo. She did not expect to be scolded by Sheng Zun until she wanted to vomit blood. She really wanted to strangle this crazy Sheng Zun to death. Damn it, it was most likely that whoever called him Sheng Zun was not a good person. Just as Hei Xinjiu was complaining, Sheng Zun pressed a groove on the carriage, and a tea table slowly popped out from the carriage wall. The Lord took out a pot of tea, a teacup, and a plate of pastries from his storage ring. Then, he leaned against the wall of the carriage and slowly sipped on the tea. Hei Xinjiu pursed her lips. But why are you pretending to be a big garlic? Isn't drinking water to quench your thirst? Sipping, what's there to taste? However, the pastries seemed to be quite delicious. It seemed like she had never eaten pastries like that before. Of course, although this guy was greedy, he still had a backbone. He took out a cushion made by himself from his storage ring and leaned against it. Then he closed his eyes to rest. The Lord glanced at Hei Xinjiu and muttered to himself, I wanted to let her taste tea with Sheng Zun, but since she fell asleep, let's forget about it. Hei Xinjiu jumped up. As she got up in a hurry, she bumped her head into the carriage. Fortunately, the carriage was soft, or else this guy would have hit a big bump. I didn't fall asleep. Do you want to taste tea? I'm good at the tea ceremony. Hei Xinjiu moved to the side of the tea table with a smile. Sheng Zun didn't know if he was frightened by Hei Xinjiu. He took a sip of tea and coughed twice. Then he said, Since you're good at the tea ceremony, show me. If you perform well, I'll treat you well. Hei Xinjiu glanced at the plate of pastries on the coffee table and said with a smile, Of course I can perform the tea ceremony, but I'm a little hungry now. Sheng Zun said, Let's eat some pastries to satisfy our hunger first. Then we can perform. Hei Xinjiu was waiting for this sentence. She picked up a piece of pastries and started eating. The taste of the pastries was naturally good. Hei Xinjiu felt a little thirsty after eating 2 pieces, so she took out a teacup, poured a cup of tea, and sipped it. Sheng Zun's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. As Hei Xinjiu drank, her expression became a little serious. She was greedy and indeed thick-skinned, but she would only let her guard down in front of a gigolo. But why would she let her guard down in front of Sheng Zun when she knew she should be wary of him? Hei Xinjiu raised her head and looked at Sheng Zun. Sheng Zun did not expect Hei Xinjiu to look at him so suddenly. There was a flash of panic in his eyes. Unfortunately, he was too fast and Hei Xinjiu could not catch him. Hei Xinjiu did not see anything wrong with Sheng Zun's eyes. She looked at Sheng Zun's lips. However, she only felt that they were similar to Di Biming's lips, but she was not sure. Although this guy had kissed Di Biming many times, his eyes were closed every time he was kissed. Therefore, this guy had never looked at Di Biming's lips in detail. Hei Xinjiu saw that the Lord was looking at her with raised eyebrows, so she could only withdraw her gaze and take a big sip of tea embarrassedly. Sheng Zun. The Lord raised his eyebrows and leaned forward. Why are you looking at me like that? Don't tell me you have fallen in love with me? Hei Xinjiu did not waste a single drop of the tea in her mouth. She sprayed it on Sheng Zun's face, and the water dripped down his silver mask. Hei Xinjiu seemed to have seen black smoke rising from Sheng Zun's head, and the temperature in the carriage instantly dropped a lot. Even Buttface, who was driving outside, shivered, and the 8 black-horned horses instantly turned to the side. Hei Xinjiu, who was in the carriage, felt guilty. I'm sorry. It's too hot in this carriage. It'll go out and cool down. After saying that, Hei Xinjiu rushed out of the carriage and sat beside Buttface. Seeing Hei Xinjiu's guilty look, Buttface knew that this troublemaker had caused trouble again. He asked in a low voice, Little fairy, what happened? Why is it suddenly so cold? Did you make the Lord angry again? Hei Xinjiu glared at him. Drive well. Stop talking nonsense. Buttface. After rebuking Buttface, Hei Xinjiu rolled her eyes and returned to the car. When the Lord saw Hei Xinjiu come in, the anger in his eyes was enough to burn Hei Xinjiu to ashes. Hei Xinjiu took out a handkerchief from her storage ring and said, Sheng Zun, what happened? Sheng Zun, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. Let me help you wipe it off. After saying that, Hei Xinjiu went to wipe the mask of Sheng Zun. A trace of treachery flashed in his eyes. He took off this crazy mask while he was wiping the mask, so that she could know whether the Lord was a gigolo or not. Xingzun narrowed his eyes and raised his eyebrows, but he did not stop Yunchujio. He Xinjiu wiped the mask on Xingzun's face and found a sad thing. The mask seemed to be born on Xingzun's face, and it was impossible to take it off. If you continue to wipe it, my mask will be torn by you, Xingzun said with a hint of mockery. He Xinjiu withdrew her hand in embarrassment. When she saw Xingzun's right hand on the coffee table, she immediately grabbed it and said, "You have tea on your hand, right? Let me help you wipe it." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.